Hi, it's Nathan and Rachel from I Need IVF, and today we're going to talk to you a little about our infertility and IVF journey, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's quite a long one.
Yeah, I guess so.
Not as long as some, but
absolutely.
5 years almost.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, I mean, if we take it from when you first came off of your injection.
True.
So you came off your injection in December 14, didn't you?
Yes.
And although we didn't really formally try for the first... Well, we did try, but we tried on and off, didn't we? And I think a lot of people actually go through this period where they're trying, but not
really
trying, you know. We took a break because we moved house, we took a break because we went on holiday.
Yeah.
Was it the right time? Because I was switching jobs at one stage, and it was just like, is it ever right? And I think through that process, eventually we came to the conclusion that there's never a perfect time to try.
Yeah.
So our proper sort of trying started, August 16, I'd say, about 18 months afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, so August 16, that was when we really sort of thought, you know what, doesn't matter what happens in life, we want a child, let's give it a go.
Yeah. And that was 3 years ago, so...
Yeah. So a lot's happened since then, hasn't it?
Quite a lot.
So we tried to conceive. I'd say the first 3 months were just quite a lot of fun, actually.
Absolutely. Like you hope it would be, right?
Yeah, a lot of fun. But I would say after that, the realities of trying to conceive hit home a little bit.
Yeah,
maybe 6 months.
to kind of. 6 months I would say is where I start to think, oh, this isn't going quite the way I'd planned.
No.
But also, I think both of us are quite relaxed people, so
Fairly.
I kind of felt like, even though in the back of my mind I questioned whether there was something going on, I kind of always just thought, it just takes time, and you know, next cycle, and what have you, and didn't really think too much past that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite a sciencey, maths orientated guy, and I think after about 6 months I knew that the chances were more likely, if everything was good, that we would have got pregnant than shouldn't have got pregnant. I mean, we did a full article on that, didn't we, which is quite interesting. And it looks at sort of where you are and what your chances with the next cycle and moving forwards. And I think, especially when you see those stats bandied around of 30% per cycle, you think, 2 or 3 cycles and it'll all be gravy.
Yeah.
But that's not the reality. And I would say one of the things that I guess I didn't expect it to impact was part of our sex life. You know, sex was always an expression of love and care and a bit of fun every now and then.
Absolutely.
But when you start trying to conceive, I think please, you know, correct me if you don't agree or whatever, but I think it becomes, there's a reason for it and a purpose. So that changes the nature of it. You know, you're trying to get something out of having sex, not just having sex because you love each other.
Yeah.
And I think that was quite challenging. We had to work through that, didn't we?
Yeah.
Because it became quite transactional. You know, Rachel done a 13-hour day at work. She's a nurse, so she does long days. But she's in her fertile period. She's had a 13.5-hour day. She's just got home. Patients died on her. She's an emotional wreck. But guess what? It's her emotional period. We must have sex. And it did get a little bit like that sometimes, didn't it? And that was tiring, I would have said. But we found ways to work through that. We made light of it. We spiced things up a little bit when we needed to. And it's just trying to get the romance back in it a little bit. So we worked through that quite a lot.
You know, and there were other things we tried during this kind of period to kind of help things along. So like Nathan said, I was tracking my cycle. It's something I'd actually done pretty much since I came off the injection, so since December 14. More out of the fact that my cycles varied by about 10 days, and so then I was never sure when my period was due to turn up, and that irritated the life out of me, because there's nothing worse than getting halfway through a long day at work, you know, disaster striking and you being super busy and then your period starting, and you not being able to get away for hours. And
you used a range of apps, because I remember getting tons of invites to them.
Absolutely.
You used OvuSense, you used online apps, you used
Kindara,
you used so many things.
Fertility Friend, I think one of them was called. Ovia. God, I used everything.
You did, didn't you?
Flow. Glow.
Did they help you overall?
Some of them were more useful than others. I think And it really did kind of depended on which aspects of those you were using. Like I said, I had a cycle that it wasn't, I wouldn't say it's irregular, but it did have a bit of a 10-day variability, which also means that your day of ovulation can vary by 10 days. So obviously that kind of does mean that hitting the right time can be a bit difficult, although obviously the advice is to have sex every 2 to 3 days, but we all know that life gets busy and it doesn't always work out like that as much as you hope and aim, you know, when you do get home from that long shift, or,
you know, and I think,
you know, Nathan was away with work, or any of these things, it could all kind of impact you keeping up that.
And I think the other things that we looked at were obviously the sensible things. So we both lost a little bit of weight, didn't we? Picked up our exercise a little bit, cleaned up our lifestyle. I can see you grimacing a little bit over there. We did. I mean, she probably doesn't remember it well, but we did pick these things up, because you have to, really. Took vitamins, you know, all of those kind of things, just to try and help it along a little bit. But by sort of February 17, we sort of came to the conclusion between us there was probably an issue.
And I think at that point I'd started looking into the NICE guidance. So NICE is the National Institute for Health and Clinical Excellence.
Absolutely.
No, not Clinical Care Excellence. It changed its name. And I was looking through that, and it said if nothing had happened after 12 months, you should seek GP advice. So obviously by this point we'd gone a fair while.
Yeah, we have.
So
we decided to give it yet another 6 months after that, didn't we? Because that's February.
Yeah.
When we were talking about this year, and I think we decided to give it another good 6 months and see what happened. So we went and saw the GP in October 17. You didn't find that too bad, did you?
No, I was really lucky. I had a lovely GP who was very helpful, and in our area for women, you get basically sent straight to the fertility clinic at the local hospital. The GP doesn't do any of the blood work or any of the fertility testing themselves. They just send you straight to the clinic. So that I got a referral through for that.
Yeah, I mean, I must say I found it a bit harder.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it was pride, ego, not wanting there to be something wrong, feeling emasculated because of it. I don't know why, but I procrastinated for another couple of weeks and blamed work. I mean, I could have gone earlier, but I had to get my head around, was there an issue with me? And I think that's something that men do struggle with sometimes. But I did go, and actually the GP was great. We both got referred over to the fertility clinic. About 6 weeks later, we went to our fertility clinic, which was literally 5 minutes down the road, wasn't it? Which was amazing.
Very handy.
And we both had a history, didn't we?
Yeah. So history. I think they did my height and my weight.
Yeah.
They do that all the time. They gave general lifestyle advice, kind of things we already knew: stop smoking, cut down on caffeine, exercise, lose weight, all of the kind of things you expect them to say. But they went through our history and seemed quite happy that we'd been doing all the things we should have done, sex every 2 to 3 days, kind of that stuff. They were happy enough that my cycles were, regular, that there didn't appear to be any obvious reason that they could immediately put their fingers on. So they referred me for blood tests initially, and there's a variety of different blood tests you do, but I'm sure we'll do some kind of video on that later on because it's quite complicated. And all of those came back fine, and then from my point of view, the only other test they wanted to do was something called a HSG, which stands for, forgive me for saying this correctly, a hysterosalpingogram. Try saying that quickly. Which essentially is under an X-ray, so you have it done in a kind of an X-ray department, and they're looking to see whether your fallopian tubes have got any blockages, or if there's any obvious deformity in the kind of uterine area or with your fallopian tubes. So they put a bit of dye up into that area, and then they take X-rays of it to check for blockages. And that came back okay as well.
So you were all okay, weren't you?
I was all fine.
So I went for 2 semen analysis.
Mm-hmm.
I had a physical examination of my testicles.
Mm-hmm.
They're basically looking to see, are your tubes working, have you got any vascular problems, those sort of things. So that was all clear.
Yeah.
Blood work, which again came back completely clear. My semen analysis, the count was really good at that point, wasn't it? No problems with the count. But I did have low normal forms, which essentially means that I have 98% of my sperm have 2 heads, 4 tails, swimming left-handed circles, and can't get to where they want them to go, basically.
Yeah.
But with the count, they weren't concerned. They said that with the count that I had, we should still have been able to get pregnant naturally.
Yeah.
So we got our diagnosis in March. March 18.
Which was essentially unexplained infertility.
Yeah.
So it's what it says on the tin. It means that our infertility, they can't explain it. They don't know why we couldn't get pregnant. There was nothing obvious that suggested it. And essentially there's only one route from that point because there's nothing to treat, essentially, and that route is IVF.
So we were referred into, well actually we got the choice, didn't we? They said, do you want to go to this clinic or this clinic or this clinic? And we said, we'll go to the Centre for Life.
Yeah.
So we went to the Centre for Life, and our first appointment was in May. A week before our first appointment I went and had another semen analysis. You'll do a lot of that, man. And then we had our first appointment where they went through the results, and they found that my count had crashed, basically. It had gone through the floor. I'd lost about 35 million, hadn't I?
They wandered off.
Yeah.
God knows where they went.
Well, actually, in that time I got diagnosed with chronic prostatitis, which is known to impact sperm count, unfortunately. So it is something that we had to be aware of.
Yeah. Although your normal forms were about the same.
About 4%, I think.
Yeah.
So they got a lot better. So for some reason my normal forms got better, but my count crashed. Which meant that when we had that first meeting, basically they said that ICSI was on the table. Can't rule it out, we may have to use it depending on the quality of the sample on the day. So we went through the first cycle. We were on long protocol, weren't we? If you want any more information about that, we have released a video on the process of IVF and the timeline, so go and check that out. What did we get? What eggs did we get? So we got 5 follicles, which is it's not a huge number, but it's enough.
We got 5 eggs out of those.
5 eggs out of that, and
they're
all of those fertilised.
All were mature, all fertilised.
Yeah. So they were all fertilised, so we thought, okay, this isn't too bad.
Yeah.
Then we got to day 3, didn't we? And we got a phone call which said, come in for a day 3, which, although the clinic never say it's a bad thing, I think everyone knows that it means they're not developing as well as they should outside the body.
Yeah.
And that was reflected in what we got. So we got a 1-7.
Yeah, so we got a 7 cell, 2 6 cells, one which was better than the other one had low fragmentation, the other one had higher fragmentation. We got a 5 cell and a 4 cell.
Yeah.
And ideally at that point you're looking at 8 cells.
So in reality, none of them were where they should be.
No.
But we had a 7 and a 6.
The better of the
6 implanted, which we named MB1 and MB2, didn't we? Had those implanted, and then we went through the dreaded 2-week wait that isn't 2 weeks in IVF, it's 9 days.
Yeah. Or it was 11
days for that, because it's 3 days. Yeah, we had a 3-day transfer, so 11-day wait. And unfortunately, no, it was that was tough, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was really hard because if you're on a long protocol like we were, it takes about 7 weeks from start to finish. So we started that cycle in July.
Sounds about right.
July.
June.
End of June. In fact, yes, you're right. End of June. And we were in August now, and it hadn't worked out. And
you also put all your hopes on those 2 little things you've seen on the screen.
It's the first time, like for me, it felt like it was the first time I knew that the egg and the sperm had actually met and got to the right place.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? It was that one time where you think, actually, there's a real chance here, you know, because nobody could tell us what was wrong. And that, I think the unexplained infertility diagnosis for me is one of the hardest parts, because I like explanations and I like for somebody to say, this is what's wrong and this is what we're going to do about it, and they couldn't do that. So it was the first time I knew for definite that anything had actually gone right, and obviously it didn't really work out.
So then we went for a second one, didn't we?
We did. So
it took a bit of time deciding whether to.
Yeah, so that cycle finished middle of August or end of August, somewhere around there, end of August. And we went away, and they said they would send out an appointment for like a follow-up, and we got that through, and that came through for mid-October.
Sounds about
so
right.
It was kind of 6 to 8 weeks after everything had finished, and we went in for that. And I think at that point we weren't totally sure what we wanted to do.
No.
Still. We kind of had discussed it, hadn't we? But
we talked about doing it, but I mean, from my perspective, my concern was obviously you just had all that hormonal treatment. Your body was only just getting
back
comfortable again,
yeah.
and I think I was worried about that.
Yeah.
But I think you felt quite strongly that you just wanted to keep going.
Yeah. I think my feeling was, once I'd done it the first time, I kind of felt like if I stopped and had a break, that I would actually find it even harder to go into the second round. Whereas I was so used to my hormones feeling all up the swanny that I was like, well, if they're up the swanny anyway, we might as well just carry on. And the only thing the clinic had said is they wanted me to have had 2 periods by the time I started again, and had after I'd come off the meds for the first cycle, I'd had a period within a couple of days, and then I had one more. So they were happy enough with that I could go straight into the second round.
So we went for it, didn't we?
We did. So literally, we had that follow-up appointment, and 2 weeks later, we started drugs. So it was very quick.
One of the things I will say is, if you want quick IVF treatment, summer, Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely.
No one wants it for the holidays, and no one wants it over Christmas.
So we started the drugs at the end of October, and because the test date was in the middle of December, nobody wanted to do it because they didn't want to ruin their Christmas with a negative result. Whereas I'm a nurse, I was working Christmas anyway. I thought, what does it matter?
So we pretty much had the same protocol as well, didn't we? I mean, Rachel and we thought they might increase the stimulation drugs for us, because as we said, she only got 5, which we didn't think was a huge number, but they basically, if you get less than 3, they'll determine it a failed cycle.
Yeah.
Because we got 5, they didn't, and they basically said no, we'll keep you on the same protocol, which I had really mixed feelings about. I sort of wanted them to push you a bit harder, but then on the flip side, I didn't want you to get OHSS or any of the other problems that come with more aggressive stimulation.
Worry about worsened symptoms and stuff and side effects with increased doses. But at the same time, I think, like you've just said, I wasn't totally convinced that it was the right idea to keep on the same doses. But they had said that if that cycle failed, because we're lucky enough that we would have gotten a 3rd cycle on the NHS, that if we still hadn't had a great response from that 2nd cycle, then they would have increased my drugs on the 3rd as a kind of last ditch attempt.
So the 2nd cycle, very similar really.
Yeah.
I mean, we did get 2 extra follicles.
Yeah.
So we got 7 eggs harvested.
Yes.
But only 5 fertilised.
Only 5 fertilised.
So we're in exactly the same position, weren't we?
Same as before.
However, the progression was worse than the first cycle, amazingly, wasn't it? I say worse, we had more drop-off.
Yeah.
So on day 3, we had 1 good quality.
Yeah.
Which we didn't have in the last one, so that was a positive. Then we had 2 that
were
borderline, and I think if an embryologist says borderline,
it doesn't mean great.
They didn't tell us the cell division. They just said borderline, and then they said 2 that just weren't making progress. So we were down to 1 maybe 3 if some miraculous thing turned over. And our clinic at that point had stopped all day 3 transfers. Change of legislation around multiple pregnancy rates caused them to only do day 5s at that point. So, we were in the hands of whatever powers may be.
Yeah.
We got to day 5 and we had 1 left, just 1. The others, unfortunately, hadn't made it. But that one was a top quality AA blastocyst. Which is great news. So a really good quality blastocyst, which massively improves your chance of success, which we weren't told, because I don't think they want to get your hopes up, but from researching afterwards we realised how much better your chances are with a top quality AA blastocyst. So that was implanted. Again, we went through the dreaded 9-day wait. And what happened?
And it was positive.
Yeah.
So on the 19th of December, so 6 days before Christmas, we found out that we were pregnant.
Best Christmas present ever, wasn't it?
Which was a pretty good Christmas present.
And we were hosting.
We were hosting, and I spent a considerable amount of time hanging my head over toilet,
Yes,
which was brilliant on Christmas Day.
Most of Christmas.
Hello, Cleo. Have you decided to join in this video too?
Cleo likes to join in our video. She's a camera whore.
She is. You're just trying to get that pretty face on camera, aren't you? She's like, I'm an old girl, but I still got it.
Yeah. So we got that positive, which was just the most amazing feeling ever. We've been trying for so long. Both of us have wanted children for a long time, but we haven't been in the right relationship. Careers, all of that stuff, all took its toll, and we started late. So I think, like a lot of people in the UK, we started late. So to get that positive before we hit that magical 35-year-old barrier was just absolutely incredible, really.
So I will technically still be 33 when I have a baby.
And
although I'll turn 34 about 2 days later.
As you can see, we've got this lovely little boy, girl, indifferent. We don't know. We've decided to keep it a surprise. Cleo, please get your tail out of my face. Keeping it a surprise, aren't we? And it's due in 4 weeks.
4 weeks. Oh my god.
Which is crazy. 30th of August. So I hope that our story can bring a little bit of hope to people. I guess in the future we are still considering our options, but both of us would like a bigger family. What that means in the future, whether we pay privately, whether we go abroad, whether we try naturally for a while, whether we look at adoption, whatever it may be, let's just get through the next 6 months, I guess.
Absolutely.
But,
although, unfortunately, in the infertility world, there's always this clock ticking in the back of your head.
Absolutely.
And I turned 34 about 2 weeks after this little one is due. So it kind of makes you think, how quickly do we need to think about it? Because hitting that dreaded 35 mark that everybody talks about, that decreases your chances.
And I guess that's our journey, and I think that's partly what sort of inspired us to start the website, really, is that when we were going through it, there is a lot of information out there, but that information is very, very American-centric, isn't it? There are a couple of sites around, but at the end of the day, it's basically the NHS, which is quite a sterile, very fact-driven site. And I'm a fact-driven person, so a lot of the articles I will write will be quite fact-driven, but they'll still have anecdotes in it.
No, definitely. And I find like the NHS website, it gives you a little bit of information, but it holds off from giving you anything in detail.
Because they
have fear that people will come around and say, well, that isn't how it happened for me, or that's not what my doctor did, or any of these kind of things. And yes, there's always going to be that element because everybody's individual, and hopefully they're all treated as individuals. But sometimes you just want a bit more detail than you'll go on to some kind of drug.
Exactly.
Which kind?
And I think for me is, so we started this website, I think one of the important things is to try and get other people's stories. So we'd love to hear your story. If you've been through infertility, IVF, IUI, IVI, any of these things, if you have gone all the way through that journey and now you're further in and you're looking at adoption, if you're looking at life without children, all of these things, we'd absolutely love to hear from you, even if it's just to chat to us. It doesn't have to go on the website, But you know, it's just good to connect with people who've been going through similar things and share our experiences, because there's still such a, I don't like to use the word taboo, because I don't necessarily think it's a taboo around infertility and IVF, but there is it's definitely not talked about in society enough.
And whether that's because we're all stiff up a little Brits.
Yeah.
British?
British. You mean British or Brits?
Yeah,
one or the other.
Yeah. Just add them together and make Brits. You know, but I think it's something we should talk about more. And like you said, we can only give our journey from our perspective. But you know, there are so many different pathways and different ways you can come to IVF, infertility.
And all the others.
And all the others, and it would be lovely to have a few stories so
it's
people
like to have
feel
it as a platform, wouldn't we, really?
and people feel less alone, so they know there's other people going through the same thing that they are, because I think it can be a very lonely journey.
Yeah, even if you're with your partner, that lonely, and in fact one of the things that I wrote about recently was, is your partner enough of a support mechanism? And you know, for most things in life, your partner is enough of a mechanism for support. But I actually think with infertility, when it's so deeply ingrained, it's part of who you are, and it impacts every facet of your relationship, I think you have to find support elsewhere as well. You know, and that's nothing against you, and I imagine it's nothing against me, but you have to find other ways to discuss that. It's not that you can't talk to each other about it, but just to get a different perspective, because you can become quite insular.
Yeah, and when you're both suffering and you're both finding it emotionally hard, it can be difficult to give the other person the support that they maybe need, because you're finding it difficult too.
So I guess if you'd like to share your story, get in touch with us. Either drop us a comment or come onto our website and drop us a comment on there, or email us, either way. We'd love to hear from you, but feel free to subscribe to get more from us, and hit that like button. I think that's a thumbs up, and let us know what you think. Thanks ever so much.